Have you ever opened your phone to check one message and somehow lost the next 27 minutes of your life? You did not carefully choose that. You did not sit down and say, "Today I will waste half an hour." Your brain simply followed a pattern it had already learned. Your bad habits are not random, and the strange part is this. Your brain may not even love the bad habit itself. It loves the promise of what the habit might give you. In this video, we are going to understand why bad habits feel so automatic, why they become difficult to break, and why willpower alone usually does not solve the problem. By the end, you will understand the basic science behind habit loops, dopamine, rewards, and automatic thinking. We will talk about ideas connected to Charles Duhigg, B.J. Fogg, Wolfram Schultz, and Daniel Kahneman, but in a simple way. Because once you understand how a habit is built, you stop seeing yourself as weak and start seeing the pattern more clearly. And that is where change begins. Bad habits feel automatic because the brain is designed to save effort. Your brain does not want to think deeply about every single action. Imagine if you had to consciously decide every tiny step of brushing your teeth, tying your shoes, driving a familiar road, or opening your laptop. It would be exhausting. So the brain creates shortcuts. When you repeat something again and again in a similar situation, the brain starts grouping those actions together. The action becomes easier, faster, and more automatic. This is very useful when the habit is good. For example, making tea in the morning, walking after dinner, or checking your calendar before work. But the same system also works for bad habits. Scrolling when bored, snacking when stressed, procrastinating when a task feels uncomfortable, checking messages every few minutes, opening a shopping app just because you feel restless. The brain does not always ask, "Is this good for my long-term future?" Often it asks something simpler. Have we done this before? Did it give relief? Can we repeat it quickly? This is why a bad habit may feel like it happens before you even decide. You are not always making a fresh decision. You are often running an old script. Daniel Kahneman, the psychologist who wrote about fast and slow thinking, helped popularize the idea that much of our mind works automatically. He described one kind of thinking as fast, effortless, and instinctive, and another kind as slower, more careful, and deliberate. Bad habits usually live in the fast system. They do not wait for a meeting with your logical mind. They are quick. They are familiar. They are emotionally convenient. That is why you can know something is bad for you and still do it. Knowledge is slow. Habit is fast. And in daily life, fast often wins. This is why saying, "I just need more discipline," may be too simple. Discipline matters, of course. But many bad habits are not just a discipline issue. They are learned responses. Your brain learned, when I feel this, I do that, and then I feel slightly better. That small relief teaches the brain. And once the brain learns a pattern, it tries to repeat it. Charles Duhigg, in his work on habits, explained habits using a simple loop. Cue, routine, reward. Let's break this down. The cue is the trigger. It can be something outside you, like a notification sound, a place, a time of day, or seeing food on the table. Or it can be something inside you, like boredom, stress, loneliness, tiredness, or anxiety. The routine is the behavior. This is what you actually do. You scroll, you snack, you smoke, you avoid the task, you open another video, you check your inbox again. The reward is what your brain gets from it. And this is important. The reward is not always pleasure. Sometimes the reward is relief. Relief from boredom, relief from stress, relief from uncertainty, relief from effort, relief from an uncomfortable emotion. Let's take a simple example. You are working on something difficult. The cue is discomfort. Your brain says, "This feels hard." The routine is opening your phone. The reward is relief. For a few minutes, you no longer feel the pressure of the task. Now your brain notices something. Interesting. When work feels difficult, phone gives relief. That is the beginning of a habit loop. Next time the same discomfort appears, your brain remembers the shortcut. Not because it hates you, not because it is stupid, but because it learned that this action reduces discomfort quickly. B.J. Fogg, who studies behavior design, often explains that behavior becomes more likely when motivation, ability, and a prompt come together. In simple terms, if something is easy to do, emotionally tempting, and triggered at the right moment, you are more likely to do it. That is exactly why many bad habits are so powerful. They are easy. Your phone is nearby. The snack is in the kitchen. The app is one tap away. The video starts automatically. The online store remembers your details. A bad habit often wins not because you deeply want it, but because it is frictionless. Good habits usually require effort up front. Going for a walk requires shoes, time, and movement. Reading a book requires attention. Cooking healthy food requires planning. But the bad habit is often ready instantly. This is one reason environment matters. If the cue is always around you, and the routine is always easy, the habit loop keeps getting stronger. You cannot remove every cue from life. That is unrealistic. But you can start noticing them. Because the moment you can identify the cue, the habit becomes less invisible. Ask yourself, what usually happens right before I do this? Is it a time, a place, a feeling, a person, a task, a notification? Most bad habits are not random. They have a doorway. Find the doorway, and you can start changing what happens next. Now let's talk about dopamine. Dopamine is often called the pleasure chemical, but that is too simple. A more useful way to think about dopamine is this. Dopamine is deeply involved in wanting, anticipation, learning, and reward prediction. The brain is constantly trying to predict rewards. If I do this, what will I get? If I open the app, will there be something interesting? If I eat this, will I feel better? If I check my phone, will there be a message? Wolfram Schultz, a neuroscientist, did important work on dopamine and reward prediction. His research helped show that dopamine activity is closely linked not only to receiving rewards, but to learning when rewards are expected. In simple language, the brain gets excited by the possibility. If this already explains one habit in your own life, pause for a second and notice which cue usually starts it. That cue is more important than the habit itself. This is why unpredictable rewards can be so addictive. You do not know what you will get. Maybe a funny video, maybe a like, maybe a message, maybe news, maybe nothing, maybe something exciting. That uncertainty can make the habit stronger. The brain says, check again, maybe this time. This is why scrolling can feel so magnetic. It is not that every post is amazing, most are not, but the next one might be. Dopamine is often strongest in the chase, not necessarily in the satisfaction. Think about craving junk food. The most powerful moment is often before eating it. The image, the smell, the thought, the anticipation. Once you eat it, the pleasure may be short. Sometimes you may even regret it. But the brain remembers the anticipation. This is why bad habits can continue even when the actual experience is disappointing. You may scroll and feel empty afterward. You may procrastinate and feel guilty. You may overeat and feel uncomfortable. You may check your phone and find nothing important. But the cue appears again, and the brain predicts a reward again. The habit is not powered only by pleasure. It is powered by expectation. This is also why telling yourself, "I don't even enjoy this," does not always stop the habit. Because the brain is not always chasing enjoyment. Sometimes it is chasing relief. Sometimes it is chasing novelty. Sometimes it is chasing certainty. Sometimes it is chasing escape. Understanding this can make you more compassionate with yourself. You are not broken. Your brain learned a prediction, and now it repeats the behavior because it expects something useful from it. The goal is not to hate your brain. The goal is to retrain the prediction. So how do you weaken a bad habit? Not by declaring war on yourself. A practical way is to work with the habit loop. First, identify the cue. Before the habit happens, pause and ask, what am I feeling right now? Am I bored, stressed, tired, lonely, overwhelmed, avoiding something? This matters because if you do not know the cue, you will keep fighting the routine blindly. Second, keep the reward but change the routine. Suppose your habit is scrolling when stressed. The reward may not be the phone. The reward may be a mental break. So instead of saying, "I will never take a break," try giving the brain a different break. Stand up, walk for 2 minutes, drink water, look outside. Write one sentence about what is bothering you. Breathe slowly for a short moment. This is not magic. It will not always work instantly, but it gives your brain a new option. Third, add friction to the bad habit. Move the app away from the home screen. Keep snacks out of sight. Put your phone in another room while working. Log out of the website. Turn off non-essential notifications. Small friction matters because many bad habits depend on being easy. If the habit needs 3 extra steps, the automatic spell becomes weaker. Fourth, make the better habit easier. Keep a book where you usually scroll. Keep walking shoes near the door. Keep healthy food visible. Open the document before you sleep so it is ready in the morning. Set up your environment so the right action is the easier action. B.J. Fogg's behavior model reminds us that tiny actions can matter. You do not always need a massive life change. Sometimes the first goal is simply to make the desired behavior easy enough to start. Fifth, delay the habit. Do not say, never again. Say, not for 10 minutes. This gives your slower thinking system time to enter the room. Remember Kahneman's idea. Fast thinking reacts automatically. Slow thinking reflects. A short delay creates space between cue and routine. And in that space, you get a small amount of freedom back. The point is not perfection. The point is repetition. Every time you notice the cue and choose a different response, even once, you are teaching the brain a new pattern. The old habit may not disappear immediately, but it can become weaker, and the new path can become easier. Bad habits are not just failures of character. They are learned loops. A cue appears, a routine follows, a reward teaches the brain. Dopamine builds anticipation. Automatic thinking makes the whole thing feel effortless. This does not mean you have no control. It means control often begins earlier than we think. Not at the moment of guilt after the habit, not after the damage is done, but at the moment you notice the cue, the phone lighting up, the stress rising, the boredom appearing, the discomfort before starting hard work. That is the doorway. And once you see the doorway, you can choose whether to walk through the same old path or slowly build a new one. So here is the question. What is one bad habit in your life that may not be about pleasure, but about relief, escape, or anticipation? Write it in the comments. Not to judge yourself, but to understand the loop. Because the moment you understand the pattern becomes a little less powerful.